Basically said, yep. Cover of course and crime, man. Whoa. The husband of the woman that Nancy Pelosi was seen making out with. Yeah. CNN. I'm just freaking devastated by the ordeal, man. I love my wife so much. I cannot believe this. I cannot freaking believe it. I feel like I'm going to wake up and there's nothing here. I'll be here in a minute and this is all going to be bad right now. He has wrecked my life. We're headed for divorce.
Oh, for the.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
He's Peacock noted. He's apologized to everyone in the world except me. That's the husband? Where's that photo? CNN. Air photos. Look. Oh, it's a robot.
Was it a van?
Sea, air, space, expo.
The Navy legal van is right up here. Yeah. See? Look at that. Like Gone with the Wind type of thing.
It's your lake house. Look at that factory security. Yeah, it's probably right here. It's like they're at the seals behind. Small riverboat. Now, like this thing, it's a catalyst. It's like 10 balls. We covered it lightly yesterday. I didn't have a chance to. It wasn't. It was yesterday. Assuming they actually had something relevant. Thank you. They didn't have one. Waste my time this morning after looking around. Well, that's the part where appetizing. That's
It's probably highly sophisticated nitric acid etching on the aluminum paint.
I think it's finals for that. That's the way to install.
Yeah. Where was that initial?
Yeah. Oh, yes, sir. Osprey. Yes, man.
Yeah. Is that their museum?
This expo.
See that stuff coming in. What's the time that Harrier jump jet landed on the wall? Were you there for that? They put down this metal grid to keep it from blasting a hole in the ground when it landed vertically. And they just parked it. It was static.
I've seen the photos of like, it's like a dozen like postcards and posters.
They've done a sister travel. You ever go to the air show in Andrews?
I haven't been in a while. I used to live on those in high school.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, up here. Yeah, they get real like gray.
I don't know what camera install is just sitting there like a rocket ship and slowly sinking as it stays. Rubbing up against your shoulder. Yeah, they should do that. Turning over and catching it. It's like, man, planes aren't supposed to do like no.
Until they fray.
Yeah, I mean, as cool as it is, that one, we used to always on the whole program since. I really did have to work like that.
Whoa.
My dad knows that. A whole slew of issues, training They want someone to take off.
To freeze and get it. That's still happening.
Just a couple more.
Yeah.
Judy, leading the way here. Good afternoon, everyone. We just had really a glorious experience at the White House where the president signed one executive order and a memorandum with direction to the Secretary of Labor that we're very happy about. As my colleagues come to the podium, you will see that I am joined here by some of the great champions for equality in the workforce for women. We all have come to this day year in and year out where we acknowledge that for the first 3 months of the year and a little more, women have worked for free compared to their male counterparts, same qualification, same job. It's just not fair. It's not fair for what it means to that woman, of course, but it also has an impact on what she can do for her family, what will happen to her in retirement and the rest. It's just something that it's hard to explain to everyone. It's a total embarrassment. Well, the president went to the step of taking the action today to sign the executive order to ensure that federal contractors and the federal government set a firm example of fairness in the workplace. And later today and the rest of the week, the Senate will be taking up the Paycheck Fairness Act as I said, in the Senate. Pretty exciting because, again, Louise Slaughter, Maxine Moore, all of these women have been working, Colleen Hanabusa, have been working for a long time on these issues. So Lofgren, I'm talking now about a little more of our senior members, but will be Jan Schakowsky, senior in terms of service in the Congress.
Any way you look at it.
I'm up there. Nydia Velasquez, our ranking on report, on small business. But here's the thing. Imagine, first 3 months of the year, women working for free. That must end. Under Rosa DeLauri's leadership, when we had the majority, we passed paycheck fairness in the House 2 times for it to be blocked by the 60-vote requirement in the Senate and not passing there. Also, I'm so pleased that 100% of the House Democrats are co-sponsors of the Paycheck Fairness Act in the House of Representatives. 100% of the Democrats. We're hoping that the Senate will be successful. Today, again, they have that 60-vote requirement, but we hope that it will happen. But if we were to pass it in the House, it would smooth the way in the Senate. I'm hoping that it doesn't need any further smoothing. So here we are. Now, here we are. This is part of our When Women Succeed, America Succeeds agenda, an economic agenda for women and their families. It's about fair pay. It's about raising the minimum wage, so pay. It's about work-home balance in terms of paid leave. It's about affordable quality child care, children learning, parents earning, and that regard for family that we hold so dear. It also recognizes, when we say When Women Succeed, America Succeeds, that our economy depends on women in the workforce. We heard from, you probably read the report on Chairwoman Yellen's remarks when we honored her here in the Capitol, attributing a lot of the economic progress of the 20th century to women in the workforce. Our GDP would increase, growth would increase drastically if women were given the proper opportunity in our economy. Other countries know that, and they're engaged. Premier of the Prime Minister of Japan said so. At Davos, President of Colombia told us in my office, we're going to grow our economy by more women in the workplace. I think we're all here now? In any event, it was a thrill for me to see the President acknowledge Rosa DeLauro's leadership on When Women Succeed, America Succeeds, and in terms of passage that George Miller, we pay tribute to him, a male member of Congress taking the lead on Lilly Ledbetter, passing it and naming it for Lilly Ledbetter. Rosa has been there in the forefront of all of this. So I'm pleased now to yield to the distinguished chair of our Steering and Policy Committee, Rosa DeLauro.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Leader. What a great day for all of us. We just had such an exciting event at the White House. And I just might add that it was under Speaker Nancy Pelosi that the Paycheck Fairness Bill passed twice in the House of Representatives. So that's good. To thank all of my colleagues who stand up every single day for women and their families, and they speak out on this issue. It's another Equal Pay Day, a day when women's earnings catch up to what a man made last year. 3 months into 2014, it's over 3 months too late for equal pay. And you know, for over 50 years after the Equal Pay Act, we're making 77 cents on the dollar. And it doesn't make any difference what occupation you're in or what your education level is. It's about $11,000 in lost wages on average every year. It hasn't budged in a decade. For women of color, it is even worse. African-American women, it's 62 cents on the dollar. Hispanic women are 54 cents. And this is not just a problem for women. That's a mistake if one goes in that direction. This is less pay for women, is less income for an entire family, and that affects everyone and it affects our economy. What the president did today, we're so excited about it because the two executive actions will help, in fact, to close the pay gap. Federal contractors can no longer retaliate against employees who discuss their pay with each other. And while in so many places, it's either contractually or by the culture of the industry that they impose that prohibition on men and women. The pay secrecy continues to persist. Lilly Ledbetter talked about her situation, and I believe that Goodyear still has a secrecy policy today. We're going to collect information from federal contractors on pay broken down by sex, race, so we can find out where the gaps are and work to close it. This is. My colleagues and I have long urged the president to act on this, and so we are delighted to see this. Now in the Congress, we have to do our part. And, you know, I never feel lonely about this because there's such strength here. But since 1997, every Congress, I've introduced the Paycheck Fairness Act. And we're going to make it happen. We are going to make it happen. And it's very simple. Men, women, same job, same pay. You couldn't get a simpler concept. So now, and that needs to apply to everyone and not just federal contractors. I told you, the Senate is going to vote tomorrow. The Senate is going to vote tomorrow. And the last two times after I said where Nancy Pelosi passed this, got it passed in the House of Representatives, we've fallen short. The first time by 2 votes, and then the second time they filibustered it. I'm hoping that men and women in the Senate tomorrow, that they can come together, Republicans and Democrats, and pass this because it's not a partisan issue. Right. It is about making a difference for our families. We have made an enormous difference for women and families when we passed the Affordable Care Act in 2010, and I look to the leader on that. We said at that time that insurance companies, you cannot charge women more than men. That's real. That's today. That's now. It's happening. It's being implemented. So what we need now to do is to build on that, and we need to make sure that employers cannot pay women less for the same job. This would be transformative, and we know what it means because when women succeed, America succeeds. Thank you very, very much. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce a newly elected member of the House. Honestly, just so forthright, so strong. She stood up before she came here for women and older women. Michelle Lujan Grisham.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. And so we heard, that tomorrow, fantastic day. Today, fantastic day by the administration. But I want to point out that it's been 362 days in this congressional session that we've waited. We have a discharge petition on the floor. This group, we've been working diligently to force a vote on this issue to finally end discrimination. It is that simple. Representative DeLauro filed that discharge petition, and I'm hoping that this is the culmination of getting that effort. I'd love to point out that there's 197. My colleagues and I have all signed the discharge petition because, yes, because as you're hearing clearly, women and their entire families have waited long enough. It is quite literally imperative for the very health of our families. The current wage gap for women is not just, as you've heard, it's not just discrimination against that woman in the workforce. It's quite frankly and quite literally, it's discrimination against the entire family. I know that you know these facts, but I think that they bear worth repeating over and over and over again until we get it righted. Women now represent or lead 2/3 of American households, nearly 50% of the workforce. You know that women make 70 cents on the dollar for every dollar a man earns. That for Hispanic women in my state, a minority majority state, that means that women are making 54 cents for every dollar. So that means that their whole families are unjustly penalized because of this discrimination. In my state, in New Mexico, the yearly income for men is $41,000. So for the same work, we're talking about $33,000 for a woman or less for Hispanic women. Now, I want to put that in just some quick perspective. That's $8,000 if we take the higher number. $8,000. That's a year's worth of groceries for your family. That's a year's worth of car payments for you and your families. Could be a year, could be half the year for your mortgage or for your rent. That's an entire year of child care, which women need in order to succeed in the workforce. Equal pay for equal work shouldn't just be a suggestion. It should be the law of the land. And House Republicans have fought us every step of the way on this bill, just as they fought us on the violence or passage of the Violence Against Women's Act last year. Time is up. Let's stop discriminating against women and their families. Let's vote.
Yeah. Well done. Great.
Another fabulous freshman from New York, my colleague and someone I'm very proud to serve with, Grace Ming.
Thank you, Michelle, and I again want to reiterate my gratefulness to Leader Pelosi and all of my female colleagues and male colleagues for their dedication to ensuring fairness for all. As a daughter of immigrants and the mother of 2 young children, I, like many women across the country, understand the challenges of balancing work and family and making sure that our children have a bright future. It is imperative that we start with the basics of ensuring that women take home their fair share of wages for equal work. Policies that promote affordable childcare, equal pay, and greater work and family balance are essential, not only for women, but also for every member of the family. And we all know that when American families succeed, America succeeds. Equal Pay Day, April 8th, marks how far into the year women must work in order to catch up to the pay their male peers earned the previous 12 months. It's unacceptable that in 2014, nationwide, women only earn 77 cents for every dollar earned by men. Today marks a new milestone in our fight for equal pay. Today, we thank President Obama for taking concrete steps to close the pay gap by taking 2 executive actions that will help combat pay discrimination and strengthen enforcement of equal pay laws. As you know, the first is an executive order that prohibits federal contractors from retaliating against employees who want to talk about their compensation. The second is a presidential instruction to the Labor Secretary to establish new regulations that require federal contractors to report detailed data back to the Department of Labor. This week, the Senate will vote on the Paycheck Fairness Act. The president is doing everything within his authority to close the pay gap. It is now time for the House to take action on behalf of women all across the country, Republican and Democratic women. No more stalling, no more excuses. It's time for House Republicans to work with Democrats to finally pass this Paycheck Fairness Act and help build an economy that works for all of America's women and families. When American families succeed, America succeeds. And when women succeed, America succeeds. Now proud to introduce a good friend, one of the few people that I have seniority over in Congress, our good friend, Congresswoman Kelly.
Thank you, Grace. Equal pay is not simply a woman's issue, it's a family issue. Families increasingly rely on women's wages to make ends meet, and with less take-home pay, women have less for the everyday needs of their families: groceries, rent, childcare, doctor's visits. Women don't choose to earn less. You've heard about women earning 77 cents for every dollar earned by men, but for women of color, the gap is even wider. African American women earn only 69 cents and Latinas just 60 cents for every dollar earned by men. If you are a woman of color, no matter your education, there is that gap. Even as a woman's educational level increases, the gap widens. I know how it feels. I had a job where after getting my PhD and having the most work experience, I was the least paid of any director. The experience was eye-opening and frankly infuriating. And the role of women in the family is changing. In 4 out of 10 families, the mother is a primary or co-breadwinner. In 1992, after divorce, I became a single mother, providing for my 2 children. Shortly after, I worked on my PhD and having to raise 2 children alone. I know firsthand what it means to see your budget shrink as your responsibilities grow. When employers shortchange women, they really shortchange children. It's much harder for a child to start life on a firm financial footing when their mother is not being paid a fair wage and is constantly struggling to make ends meet. When women are being paid equal to their male counterparts, they can contribute more to the economy with stronger purchasing power, supporting the local economy. We need to pass the Paycheck Fairness Act and help build an economy that works for all of America's women and families. And this should not be a partisan issue. Both Congressman Cantor and McMorris-Rogers have said GOP supports equal pay. We should be able to work on this together in a bipartisan way. All we're asking for is a vote, and the time is now.
I thank our colleagues, Congresswoman DeLauro, Congresswoman Lujan Grisham, Congresswoman Meng, Congresswoman Kelly, for bringing a clearer understanding as to how families are shortchanged when women are shortchanged in the workplace. Congresswoman, I just want to point out that Congresswoman Christensen is here, and this is an issue for us in the territories as well, so thank you for with us, and Congresswoman Bardala as well. And any questions you may have? Of our folks who regularly come here? Yes.
So this morning, Congresswoman just alluded to this, but the conference chair and majority leader both said that they supported equal pay, but they didn't seem ready to really take any steps that move in their direction.
Well, when we passed this, as Congresswoman DeLauro said, she's been introducing this since 1997. But when we passed it 2 times, when we had the majority, neither of them voted for the Paycheck Fairness Act. And I know they're tweeting that they're for paycheck. We want to vote, not a tweet. And so, but we're encouraged by hearing the tweet. We're encouraged by the tweet and hope that it will translate into positive action to bring it to the floor. We have 197 co-sponsors of the for the discharge petition on the Paycheck Fairness Act. It really would make all the difference in the world to families if they would live up to their tweets. Any other questions? Yeah, Rosa, did you want to speak to
All
that?
I would just add to that is I
my cards,
actually contacted Congresswoman McMorris-Rogers because I listened to her very genuinely talked about being for paycheck fairness, and I sent information with a note hoping that we might be able to have a dialogue and to be able to talk about this and to see where we might go. I have had no response since, and that's at least several months ago. Thank you.
Well,
Several weeks ago. Let me put it, that way.
anyone else want to speak to that? But the fact is that
Welcome them.
they have, in a way, responded publicly in the tweet. And as I say, when it comes to any of these issues, but especially now today on Paycheck Fairness Day, where they're tweeting or their support for paycheck fairness, again, we want them to live up to their tweet, give us a vote. Yes, sir.
Congresswoman Jenkins said this morning that she thinks Democrats don't respect her choice to choose more flexibility for her family over
Yeah,
more
that's
pay.
right. It's interesting. There's nothing that gives you more flexibility than having equal pay. And anybody who thinks getting less money gives them more flexibility, something's wrong with this picture. My colleagues, anyone want to speak to that?
What does she mean? Yeah, what does she mean? What does she want to do?
Does she want to take less than her male colleagues and be here less time?
What does that mean?
Do you know what it means?
In this body, we get paid the same amount of money.
Earlier in her career, she chose to take, it seems that she said she chose to take a job that provided her family more flexibility rather than a
Well, that's a different issue. That's a completely different issue.
But
But does she want to make less than her male counterpart with the same qualifications and the same job description? Yes, sir, you had a question? Do you want to speak to
No, I
that?
was just gonna say, the point is, the point here is if a man had the same flexibility, he'd still be making more. That's our point.
That's her point. Yeah.
That,
It's not about
It's
flexibility.
not either or.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not either or.
Okay?
White House Economist Betsy Stevenson was talking to MSNBC last week, I believe it was, and she said that the issue, the
You know
wage
who
gap
that
isn't
is?
because of
I just auditioned.
isn't because of entirely due to discrimination. It's not all due to discrimination. It's due to different choices that women make in terms of career choices, which seems to be at odds with what you were saying.
No, it isn't at odds. We're saying one thing, equal pay for equal work. A woman with the same qualifications, education, experience, and job should make the same amount of money as her male counterpart. It isn't about if you decide to take a different kind of a job or anything like that. This is about equal pay for equal work. And that is, it's apples and apples. It's not apples and oranges. And so I don't know what.
If that's really the case, then we wouldn't have issues with transparency. So if these choices were acceptable choices that made sense for men and women about flexibility in their workplace, they would be transparent about what you give up in terms of what that salary is. They're not transparent in many workplaces because the intent is to continue to pay women less, which is why the administration, the president's decision today using executive authority for federal contractors is so meaningful, because now you have to disclose that. You've got to be clear that you're going to pay men and women equally. I don't see that issue, and that's, I think, one of the reasons that there's had to be policies and lawsuits and the Paycheck Fairness Act to make sure that we are being transparent and these are apples to apples.
Take a look at the United States Congress, or even this nation's military. We come from different parts of the country, as do our male counterparts. We have different education skills. We have different philosophies. We have all kinds of geographic location. You can apply all of this. We are paid the same amount of money. Whatever we bring to the job. That is not true for most American women. It is just not true. Witness last Saturday, a week ago Saturday, in the New York Times on the business section, a group of women who work for a very prominent jewelry chain. Young woman found the gentleman next to her was making more than she was, he had less experience, she had more, but her paycheck was lower. That's what we want to end. That's what we're looking to end.
And it's really interesting to see the resistance. And does that say my sister, my daughter, my mother is less worthy to receive respect for the work that they do than a man doing the same job? That to bring up other peripheral issues they should be addressed differently. People want flexibility and the rest of that, that's a separate subject. But to say that a women, and you know what, it's about valuing women and respecting women, and not trying to sell women a bill of goods that because of something or other, they're not worthy of receiving the same money. Women should not be susceptible to those false claims. I have 4 daughters. I came from and 1 son. I came from a family of 6 older brothers, 1 girl. You know, we've had all the mixes there. I have 7 grandsons, 2 granddaughters, so the mix is there. And if I thought for 1 minute in any of those scenarios that there was something less worthy about the young women in the mix, and now girls with my grandchildren, it would be such an old way of thinking. But just remember this isn't just about women and their families and their retirement. It's about the economy. We want the GDP to grow at a greater rate. Respect women in the workplace. This is big. And as it was, and my colleague, I think it was Robin, said, when American families succeed, America succeeds. This is about what that is. So I'm all smiles today because the president did something historic, and he set an example for the rest of the country. And I'll end where we began today, with Lilly Ledbetter talking about her situation, where she was paid less, didn't know it until somebody told her, because it would have been against the rules. They would have been retaliated against for sharing that information. The Supreme Court ruled that because she was paid so much lower for such a long period of time, that was okay, it became legal, and that she did not act upon it at the time of discrimination, but at the time that she found out about it. And it's too bad the statute of limitations had run out. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. And she courageously has been our leader on this, and that's why when George Miller did this bill, he said, who but Lilly Ledbetter? She's the one who made the fight. But she made the fight. She never had any gain from it because she never had any recourse. But she has gone out there and worked very hard so that other women could benefit from her experience. And that's why it was important what the president said is that people should, the transparency that Congresswoman Lujan Grisham mentioned, that transparency is there so that people know. So this is a big day. This is a big day. And hopefully the Senate will make it a big week when they pass the bill tomorrow. But the fight will go on. And I maintain that if these people are tweeting that they support equal pay, there's one way to prove that. Act upon it. Act upon your beliefs. Act upon your beliefs. Just give us a vote. And anybody, I'm hoping it goes well in the Senate, but I know it will go well in the Senate if they thought that it would go well in the House. Nobody can have the excuse of, I don't want to do this because it's going nowhere in the House. This can't be a place where equality goes to die. So I thank my colleagues for all of their leadership on all of this, whether you're working on issues that relate to our seniors and what this means to retirement, or whether it's an entry level. So many of the people making the minimum wage are women. So it's part of a whole of our economic agenda for women, and it's a great day for women in that regard. But not enough women. We have to do more. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great. Look at this. Look at this. Payday.
A payday. You know what this is? This is a payday lay.
That's right.
Hawaii.
Thank you.
A payday lay.
Thank you. Thank you, colleague. That's great. That's great. Thank you. Great. Thanks very much. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.